Hello! In this video I'm going to be going over everything my husband and I spent in the month of May and whether or not we were able to reach our goal of saving $4,000 toward our emergency fund. The month of May did not go as expected. There were a lot of surprises. Without spoiling anything, we had quite a few expenses come up that threw our budget off a little bit. However, you're gonna see if we were able to get back on track. There's a lot to go over, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So starting at the top with income, in the month of May, I estimated we would bring in $6,800 from my W-2 job. I have two of them, one full-time job, one part-time job. And in the month of May, we brought in $7,177.45. This does include some overtime and an extra shift here or there with my part-time job. I'm actually very proud of this number. However, I am getting a little burnt out at work and sitting a lot during the day. So I really wish I didn't commit to a no buy 6 months because I really want to buy a walking pad or something. 7,000, it's an awesome number. I'm so proud of that. And hopefully I can keep this up for the rest of the challenge while we're saving up an emergency fund of $30,000. The next line item is extra income, and if you look over at this box to the right, I anticipated making about $20 in Facebook Marketplace. I actually brought in 95, so I didn't sell anything on Facebook Marketplace. Technically, this is from selling books. I'm a huge book lover and have way too many of them. They were stacked double layered in my bookcase because I only have 2 bookcases for all of the books that I have. And on Memorial Day, I went through and weeded out quite a few of them and sold them to local bookshops. I did get, as you can see, $95, which I feel is pretty good. Next, high yield savings interest. We earned $62.07. Right now, I have part of our savings in Ally and part of it in Marcus. So my husband and I have a bit of a house down payment saved up, and then also this high yield savings account interest is increasing because of our emergency fund savings that we keep throwing in there. Next is credit card points. I anticipate we were going to make $50. We made $70.47. I always try to keep our budget more conservative than I'm expecting. That way we don't overextend ourselves. Next is medical claims. I anticipated we would bring in $80 in the month of May. We actually brought in $432.28. And this was actually a surprise to me. I promise I was not being super conservative here or anything like that. So the $80 here was what I was anticipating for May 2026. And when I went to go file the claim on our medical insurance portal, I noticed that there were some claims that had been denied back in 2025, and those were legit claims. Like, we should have gotten money back for them. So I called the insurance company and they checked it out, didn't know what was going on, and then they were supposed to call me back in a few weeks. I never heard from them, so I went ahead and just resubmitted all those claims again, exactly the same way that I had done before, and we ended up getting a big check in the mail, and that was from 2025, not from 2026, but there was some kind of error that was happening there. So glad I caught that. We ended up getting $432, as you can see, from catching that mistake. Next is supplements. I purchased supplements for a family member. My mom was not able to pay this month. She said she's gonna give me a double payment in June. Thankfully, we did have a bit extra in another category to make up for it. Next is bank bonus. Chime Bank, $200, and this was 0 in the month of May. So we are actually not gonna get any money from Chime Bank as a bonus because when I signed up, I had misread the requirements, and I also was a little bit confused when I was reading over them, so I asked for AI's help to understand them, and they also got it wrong. So Chime's instructions were not very clear. Even AI was confused by them. Basically, the requirement to get the bonus with Chime is to have a single direct deposit equaling $500 or more in a month. And what I read was direct deposits totaling $500. So instead of doing a single direct deposit of $500, I split it up and did 2 direct deposits of $250 in a single month. That totaled $500. Anyway, it was very frustrating. I ended up reaching out to customer service, and it was AI, of course, and the bot that I was chatting with eventually got stuck into some kind of loop, and it couldn't progress, and it wouldn't call a service representative for me, but it kept saying it was going to do that, and I was getting so frustrated talking to this bot that finally I just canceled the chat and went went and looked up a number, called customer service, and again got directed to an AI agent on customer service on the phone. And she actually sounded very realistic. At first I was like, am I talking to AI or an actual person? I couldn't really tell. But again, this AI bot got stuck in a loop. And I kept explaining the situation and she kept saying, okay, let me help you with that. Let me look into it for you. And just not doing it, and then got stuck. And anytime I asked to speak to a live representative, she said that the line was busy and she couldn't direct me to a live agent at the moment. But while we were waiting, she could look it over herself, and kept repeating this until I eventually just said, look, I believe that I've reached all the requirements to get this bonus. Where's my bonus? And she looked and said, I actually don't know. Let me direct you to a live customer service representative, and immediately connected me to one. There was no wait. It was just a ploy to get me to not crowd up their lines or something, but all that was very frustrating. And then when I finally got to the live agent, she eventually told me that I was not eligible for the bonus, and since we had gone outside the 30-day window, that I no longer was eligible. And since I was no longer a new customer, I couldn't sign up under a different account or anything like that. Like, it's just done. My husband and I are not going to get bonuses from Chime, and I know a lot of personal finance influencers really love Chime Bank because of the no fees and probably referral bonuses and other perks, but my experience with the customer service was so abysmal that I am no longer going to be banking with them. I feel like that is a big deal breaker. Even if we had gotten the bonus, the bank looks great on paper, but in reality, I think they're maybe just still getting their sea legs under them, or maybe they don't have enough funding to complete all the wish list items that other banks have. I don't know. I was not impressed with the customer service at all. If that's not important to you, then it's probably a great bank. But in my opinion, something is probably going to go wrong, and you're going to need to get in touch with someone, and they need to up their game. Otherwise, there are going to be a lot of unhappy customers at Chime Bank. So I just was getting bad vibes from them, and I'm going to close my account. My husband's going to close his account. And we were anticipating that we were going to get $350 each from bank bonuses from Chime, and now that isn't going to happen. I'm actually kind of leaning toward opening up more credit cards, and I know opening up a lot of credit cards around the same time can make your credit score take a hit. However, my husband and I are not in the market for a car right now. We're not in the market to buy a house right now. We're not really trying to have our credit scores that high, and it's more important for us to get the cash right now. Plus, with bank bonuses, you have to pay taxes out of that. With credit card bonuses, you do not have to pay taxes. So because of that, it's kind of swaying me a little bit toward the option to open another credit card. I did go ahead and look up some possible credit cards that we haven't already opened up, because we do have quite a few at this point, with good bonuses and lower annual fees and other considerations. I did a little bit of research in those areas, and nothing was really standing out to me. So I'm going to think about it a little bit more. I may see if my husband is able to open up a Chase Premier card, because that's the one that I opened recently. It currently has a $750 bonus. However, there's a $95 annual fee, which they take immediately. So you would need to subtract 95 from the 750, and then in a year consider if you wanted to pay the 95 again or cancel the card. But anyway, I'll look again and see if there is another credit card that stands out. Maybe the promos will be different in June, so we'll see. But as of right now, leaning toward opening another credit card. If anyone wants to debate that in the comments, feel free, because I'm open to as much information about this as possible. So anyway, moving on. Gym reimbursement from Blue Cross Blue Shield. I was anticipating $300. That amount was actually zero. Sensing a trend here. Basically, Blue Cross Blue Shield, they reimburse up to $300 of your gym membership. However, it has to be in a single claim on a single receipt. So I went to the gym and asked for a receipt, and they had it split up because we had changed the type of membership we had recently. And so they didn't have the $300 on one receipt. They had part of it under my husband's name with his account, and then part of it on my account. And anyway, it was just not easy and clean and simple. So I bumped this goal out for August. By August, I think we'll have paid enough that I can get a single receipt that has a total of $300 for gym membership payments on it, and I can submit that single receipt as a claim to our medical insurance provider. But yeah, that didn't happen in the month of May like I was anticipating, and so this amount is zero. Next is tax refund, $920. This was also zero. If you watched my April budget video, you'll know that I got the tax refund in the month of April. I'm adding a few extra categories because I did reach out to my friends asking them if they were able to reimburse me for the Verbo that I purchased for our mutual friend's wedding in the month of October, and one of my friends did end up paying me back $130, so that was awesome. The next line item that I added is travel reimbursement, and I was able to get $670 back for some travel that relatives had reimbursed me for. And then finally, the last line item, lawyer, my husband and I were able to get reimbursed $1,000 for some lawyer fees that a family member had agreed to reimburse to us. So you may remember back when I posted that my husband and I were going to try to save $30,000 in 30 weeks video, and I broke it all down, and one of the biggest categories on that list was reimbursements from family and friends. And at the time, I had talked about how my husband and I kind of had a problem loaning people money and then never asking for it back, and the tab just kind of went up and up and up and out of control a little bit. Well, I have realized after going and talking to a lot of these family members and friends about reimbursements for things that we had discussed previously that I would rather just not have to do this. Someday I hope that I'm so wealthy that I can just loan people money and never have to ask them to pay it back, because it is so anxiety inducing and triggering having to have conversations about money with people that you are related to or that you're friends with. And yes, I understand. I just need to get over it, and I need to get better about having conversations about money with people. I mean, I'm talking about all these details about money on the internet with complete strangers, and I have zero problem doing that. However, for some reason, when you talk about money with people you actually know, it just gets very complicated, and I hate it. There's just all these feelings about money that people have. So as an example, I went to text a friend about the Verbo, and I wrote a very straightforward text, just like, hey, just checking in about the Verbo reimbursement, no pressure, like I'm open to doing a payment plan if you need, I'm just checking in. And I showed it to my husband before I sent it, and he was like, oh my gosh, that is so to the point. When was the last time you talked to her? You should instead ask her how she's doing, and maybe talk to her a little bit, and later, maybe like weeks later, you can broach this topic. Just going straight into it is very rude. And I was like, yes, fair. However, I don't know. Like, why does it have to be this difficult? Why can't we just have conversations about money? Why does it have to be a 10-step plan in order to butter somebody up to get them to pay you what they owe you? It just seems like so steeped in politeness, and all of that is honestly just a bit frustrating for me. Like, if my husband and I didn't have this goal to build up an emergency fund right now and actively looking for every single way we can possibly save money and get creative, I probably would not be having these conversations with people about paying me back. I literally was sitting there with my finger over the send button to my friend, having a mini anxiety attack, thinking about all the relational, social implications of this text and whether or not I should send it. There are social rules around money and expectations and rules of politeness, and it's just such a taboo topic, and people are just so uncomfortable about the topic that it's almost like a dance or a game where this person takes this step and then another person takes another step to mirror it, and you're just like, oh no, I'll pay the bill. Oh no, I'll pay the bill. Like, to me, it feels very unnecessary and uncomfortable. I don't know. I'm still processing this all, I think. And feel free to drop in the comments your thoughts on this, because I'm actually very interested. It may also be a generational thing, maybe. So I'm a millennial, and I think millennials are often, not all the time, but often more direct than previous generations. Like, we're better at communication, maybe, or saying what we mean. I could be wrong about this, but that's just kind of a vibe that I'm getting. My aunt had had offered to cover some travel expenses that I had incurred visiting my grandmother. Every time I visit her, I'm always trying to help as much as I can and get things off her to-do list that she isn't able to do herself, and taking her to doctor's appointments. And at one point, my aunt had offered to pay back some of those expenses, and I still have the text that she had sent me saying, please send me your reimbursements, like clear as day. And so I email her. I'm really anxious about it. I'm like hyperventilating at some points, like not wanting to press send on this email. I run it by my husband just to make sure, because he has a lot of emotional intelligence. I also second guess myself, so I showed him this email. He said it looked great, and I sent it to my aunt, and she actually sent me back a pretty brusque email saying that there must have been a misunderstanding because she's not going to be paying back these travel expenses, and there's a whole big paragraph, and I was just mortified. But then I was like, she told me she was going to reimburse this. Like, why would she say that if she didn't mean it? And I was profusely apologizing to her. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. Like, the reason why I was thinking this was from this text that you sent me on this date, and it was like a whole thing. She ended up just sending me a check in the mail to cover half of the expenses, and then I talked to my dad about it, and he ended up helping me cover my brother's expenses because I had covered my brother's travel expenses as well. Anyway, it was a whole thing. And I just can't wrap my head around the dance of social politeness around money. If I tell someone I'm going to pay them back, I pay them back. And sometimes I might forget, but I do my best to do it as soon as possible. And I mean what I say, and I try to communicate clearly. And I feel like when other people communicate clearly, I take them at their word. Like, I don't know. It's just very, very strange. And like I said, it could be a generational thing. I don't know. But yeah, at some point, I just want to cover things as gifts and not have to ask for things in return. Like, if people have a problem receiving gifts, then I'll gladly accept reimbursement. I don't want to have to go through all this discomfort and, I don't know, social taboos. Okay, so that was the travel story. The lawyer story was similar. Like, all of these reimbursements from family and friends all turning out to have stories connected to them, and I'm not going to go into this one because this video is already getting too long. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are about this, and maybe at some point someone in the personal finance sphere will broach this topic and maybe delve more deeply into what is going on with money being so taboo and surrounded with so many layers of social niceties and politeness and a little bit of BS, because I just can't wrap my head around it and don't understand it. Anyway, okay, moving on. We've only gotten through the extra income column, so I need to speed up here. But in the month of May, we brought in $2,459.82, which is amazing considering all these zeros. But yeah, the next thing on the income column is sinking funds. So we estimated we would need to pull $120 from sinking funds. We actually pulled $232.61, mainly because it's almost my husband's birthday and he wanted to spend money on some extra things. So yeah, that number is a bit higher than expected, but we did have the savings to cover it, which is great. I've said this in other videos, but the only sinking fund that my husband and I have right now is our personal spending. So we each received $1,000 at the beginning of the year and are able to spend that at our leisure throughout the year, and this is how he chose to spend his fund money. The next category is a new one. I added a checking account rollover, and this was $69.96. I use the budgeting app YNAB, and it's a great app, especially for someone who has ADHD, because you cannot budget with money you don't have. It has to be literally in your bank account before you can assign it to different categories. However, the one aspect of YNAB that I do not understand is the credit card section, and I have watched so many videos about this, and I still cannot wrap my head around it. And apparently, I had put too much money into one of the credit card categories to cover a future credit card payment, and it was $69.96 over. So that's what that is. It's money I didn't know I had because I had put it into the wrong category to cover a credit card. Maybe there was a refund, I don't know, but it's still very confusing to me. I don't know how many of you guys have the YNAB app, but if you could shed any light on that. The credit card section, can, I would really appreciate it, because I have gone online and watched videos about this and even YNAB's instruction videos, and I still cannot figure out what is happening with these credit cards. So anyway, that should be the only mistake in there. I went back and reconciled our accounts and looked at all the credit card amounts and made sure everything was lined up. So going forward, this should be correct. But yeah, we had a slight excess from the month of April that rolled into May. Now on to the expenses part of the budget, and I apologize for all the preamble. This is gonna go a lot faster, hopefully. The first line item in our budget, of course, is rent, $1,195. That, of course, was correct. Next, electricity. I budgeted $215 because it is getting a bit hotter outside, but we actually ended up spending $190.24. Next, phones and internet. Those were the anticipated amounts, $30 and $70. Next was gas for our car. I had estimated $200. We only spent $163.16, which is great. Next, car rent insurance, $344.94. This is interesting. So the amount we actually paid was $1,104.26. And I know that's a lot, but this is actually good news. So $344 of that was paid toward our previous insurance provider, and then $759.32 went to our new insurance provider for car insurance for 6 months and then rent insurance for 12 months. Those two things were included in the $759 number. But yeah, even though this is a very unexpected big number, that means because we paid for 6 months/12 months of our insurance, we are not going to have to pay for this category for the next 6 months, which is great. Also, if you divide $759 by 6, you'll notice that we're now only paying around $100 and something a month for our car and rent insurance going forward, and that is amazing news. I did not realize that we were paying so much for our insurance. I originally went around and price shopped. I used one of the tools recommended by Personal Finance with Layla Debt Over It, which I can link in the description. Basically, you put in your criteria and then at the top insurance companies pop up, and you don't have to disclose your phone number or email and get spam, which is a great plus. For us, we got recommended Progressive, and because we were switching to Progressive for the very first time, we got a bunch of new customer promos. We got a discount for being a new member, we got a discount for bundling, we got a discount for, I think, auto paying. There were at least like 5 or 6 different discounts that we got. I can go and look that up and make another video about it, but Progressive by far had the lowest premium amount because of all those promotional bonuses. And then the other interesting thing was that I took that number and I went back to our previous insurance provider and basically said, hey, I've been a customer at this company for 20 plus years. Like, I got insurance with you guys when I first got my driver's license and I've never switched. Like, I love your company. Is there anything you can do to match this other offer that I've received? And they told me no. They said they were actually astonished how low the premium was for Progressive and told me that they were not able to match it, and also that they were not allowed to match it because it was not legal for them to do that. So I did not know that. But yeah, I spoke to 2 different agents, and both of the agents I spoke to were shocked how much of a deal I was getting. So the $759.32 to cover 3 cars, 2 drivers, and rent insurance as well for 12 months. My previous insurance provider encouraged me to switch to a different provider because I was saving so much money. So all in all, the lesson is that there is a cost for loyalty in America. If you stay with one company too long, you are going to pay for it. And it is very sad that they just keep raising your rates, hoping you don't notice until you eventually switch to another provider. And it's just so ridiculous. Like, having to cancel and switch every few years, kind of like job hopping. It costs you to be loyal to one company, whereas if you job hop, you're more likely to get a 20% bump in your salary. And it's a whole different world these days. I'm not saying that this is a mentality to keep forever, but in this moment of time in America, that is the mentality you have to have in order to save money. If you have stayed with your insurance provider for a really long time, it may be time to shop around and see if you can cut that bill dramatically rate by going with another company that has a promo rate for new customers. So yeah, just something to consider, because I would have done this way sooner if I had known how much money we were going to save. We're going to save over $1,000 in 6 months, which means around $2,000 a year. Making this one change, $2,000 in a year is not nothing. It is an insane amount of money. But yeah, hopefully you haven't been with your provider for 20 years like I have. And it should be interesting to see what the gym budget looks like when this line item is zero. And I'm very excited to have like $250 back into my life every month going forward. Yes, the rate could increase in 6 months, but I could always just switch to another provider and get their promotional rates. It's insane to me. But yeah, enough of that. Next is life insurance, $128.93, and that was the same as expected. Next is groceries. We anticipated $900. We actually spent $987.99. And as you can see, sibling Sunday, $55.95. I have 10 siblings, and we try to get together every first Sunday, and we call it Sibling Sunday, and we have a lot of food and games and just whatever we want to do that day. Next, our nieces and nephews came to visit us, and we got them snacks and got them dinner, and then we paid for like 16 meals in the month of May for family members that came over. And then another reason why this number is higher, I go grocery shopping every Friday night after work. It's when the grocery stores are the quietest, but also the most stocked up for the weekend. So there were 5 Fridays in the month of May, which is probably why this category went over a little bit. It's also really close to my husband's birthday, and we've been making a lot of special meals for him. All in all, we did go over, but I am still proud of this number, and we ended up only going $88 over. So I'm pretty proud of that number. Next is subscriptions. This actually went down a little bit. As you can see, I canceled Apple TV, which was $639. We had a promotional period that had ended, so I went ahead and canceled Apple TV. And going forward, this should be the amount that we'll be paying every month for our subscriptions. I have them listed in this note if you're curious how much we spend on our subscriptions and which ones we have. But yeah, we get most of these around Black Friday, which is why the prices are a lot lower. Hopefully, they should be having another Black Friday sale this year. I'm never assuming that they will because capitalism, but it is really helpful to help keep this subscription amount down. One thing I will say is I keep getting alerts on my phone saying that my Apple storage is running low and I need to upgrade to the next storage tier, which is $29.99 a month. And I am not going to pay that. I think I've increased how much storage I'm using because I'm filming all these videos on my phone, but I do have a camera that I can start using with an SD card in it. It's just a big pain having to set that up. So anyway, I am not going to pay $29.99 a month for Apple storage. I'm sorry. That is ludicrous. And I'm going to figure out how to get my storage usage down before I pay that. And I don't even want to be paying $9.99 a month. So we'll see. But yeah, that's subscriptions. The gym was the same, $55. Beauty, that's my husband's haircut. That was the same, $46.80. So for pharmacy medical, this was the thing that tripped us up other than paying in advance for 6 months of insurance. The pharmacy medical was very, very unexpected. I did go out and buy some allergy stuff, and then the prescriptions were a bit high because we get prescriptions in the mail and they come every like 3 months or so. This was just a higher month for prescriptions, $60.20. We also had a therapy fee, I think, for showing up late to an appointment. But the real kicker was this $543.32. And I'm just sitting here. It's very frustrating. I don't understand why I keep getting billed for appointments and procedures because we reached our insurance deductible really early this year. I want to say it was around March that we completely finished with our deductible, and the amount that we had to pay. Obviously, we're still paying our medical premium. It just gets taken out of my paychecks at work. But yeah, like we should not be having to pay any more money for the rest of the year. And we're only seeing in-network providers at this point. I did have a procedure in the month of May, and they used, I can't remember the name of the drug, but it was like a laughing gas or something like that in order to avoid using anesthesia for the procedure. It was technically surgery, but yeah, I'm wondering if they maybe the insurance didn't want to cover that because it wasn't medically necessary or something, but I would argue that I needed to have something. And yeah, like it was medically necessary to have some kind of painkiller while you're having surgery. So I don't understand why I got billed hundreds of dollars. And this is what I paid our doctor after they tried to get the claim covered and my insurance denied it. So then they passed it on to me. So what I'm going to do, I think, is call the medical insurance provider and just try to negotiate with them, I guess, and figure out why this wasn't covered, because I think it should be. Moving on, supplements. This is also high. We had budgeted $50 and we actually spent $223.93. This was because I bought a 2-month supply of probiotics for myself and a 2-month supply of a different probiotic for my husband. So we take different probiotics and you get a better price if you buy more than just 1 month's worth, plus you save on shipping. So that's why that was so high. Next is household. So I actually bought a lot of things in this category. As you can see, we got an indoor-outdoor bug treatment for $16.98, diatomaceous earth for $17.85. We're trying to do our own bug treatment because we canceled our pest control service. That was kind of a subscription every month for $39. And self-treating your house is a little bit cheaper. Scrubbing bubbles, this was for a toilet, $17.60. Hydrogen peroxide. This FGMN nursery, we bought some SF nematodes for $30. This is actually to treat the soil of our indoor plants because we've been getting a lot of fungus gnats recently with the weather getting warmer and everything, and they are just getting to a point where I am just so done with them. So this SF nematodes thing, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's very effective to treat fungus gnats in indoor plants. So we're going to try that. And then I ended up getting a laptop cooling pad. I was desperate for this. It was getting very difficult to keep my laptop from overheating, and it was definitely a great purchase. I also got a USB-C hub, and that was $25.99. It's kind of like an adapter so I can attach an external hard drive to my laptop and move some of the memory off of it because my laptop is just so slow right now from all this video editing. But yeah, if I can free up some space on my laptop, I'm hoping it won't heat up as much and it won't be as slow. Next, I got a USB-C cable for $3.99. I'm going to have to return that because it was too short to do what I had wanted it to do. You might notice that all of these items does not equal $67.52, and that's because I had an Amazon gift card that my boss had given to me for Employee Appreciation Day, which was so nice of him. He did not have to do that. I was not expecting it, and I used it to buy some things that we really needed. Okay, so next category, eating out. We actually were almost $150 here. So we ended up getting Indian food. We picked it up for $52.84. We got some Costco hot dogs. This was for 3 people, $4.80. The 3 meals came with drinks. And then Mexican food delivery, it was $63.28. Chinese food delivery for 3 people, $82.10. So all in all, pretty happy about this number. Next was entertainment. I had budgeted $50. We actually spent $124.97. This was an event for my husband's birthday. Some tickets that I bought. We're going to go see a concert. And yeah, it's a surprise. And he watches my videos, so I'm not going to talk anymore about that. Personal spending, I technically spent $0, and I'm sticking to that. And then my husband spent $232.61. He had budgeted $120, but it's his birthday. So yeah, he bought a lot of video games and is enjoying them immensely. Next is gifts. So in the month of May was Mother's Day, as well as my nephew's birthday. And then I bought a gift for my sister whose birthday is in July. Spree bought that gift because I saw something that she really wanted. That was $30.46. For my nephew, we already had a gift for him that we had bought a long time ago. We paid for some cupcakes that were decorated really cute. He's 5 years old now, and he really enjoyed that. And then, yeah, that's my husband's gift. The video games for $80. I have twin nieces. They graduated from elementary school, and we took them out for a meal after their graduation ceremony, which was $65.41. Mother's Day, as I mentioned, we got flowers for my mom, my husband's mom, 2 of my sisters, and then my sister-in-law. And then we got chocolates for my mom and my husband's mom. That all was $109.32. And then we got ice cream for our nieces and nephews one day, which was $15.39. And I have to say, yes, this was double what I had budgeted, but spending money on kids is one of the most rewarding, joyful things to spend money on, in my opinion. It's just so amazing to see them experiencing the world world and trying new things. They are so dependent on adults. They can't just go out and buy things and experiences unless adults buy it for them or unless they have like a good allowance. And I just think it's so precious to see these kids' reactions to new adventures in their life. And it's just so rewarding to spend money on kids. And even better when you're an aunt or uncle, because then you can give them ice cream and hand it back to the parents with their permissions, of course. But yeah. Next was travel. We had anticipated saving, this was for a sinking fund, $225 because my friend's wedding is coming up in October in Seattle. We still have to buy the plane tickets and everything for that. However, we were not able to save in this category this month because of all the surprise expenses. So the only thing in this category is a reimbursement that I gave to my brother for something he covered on a trip that we had taken, I think in April. That was $54.27. Next is my student loan. That's always $230. And then this is my only credit card debt. Technically, it's a mattress that my husband and I purchased, and our monthly payment is $63, but this is on a 0% APR credit card, which is why we're not paying it off early. And the good news is that I think the balance is around $400 something now. So we should be done paying this by the end of the year. So the end of 2026 will be credit card debt free. So yeah, $63 toward that credit card. And then the big number here, did we save $4,000 toward our emergency fund in the month of May? And the answer is almost. We were able to put $3,779.38. And that is an amazing number. I'm so proud of that. I am pretty bummed that we had some unexpected expenses this month and that we weren't able to reach and even exceed our goal. And not used to seeing a $9,000, almost $10,000 month of income. That is astounding. And I would have loved to save more money. But in the end, it was great that we had this money to cover the medical bill and be able to prepay the insurance and other things like that. So in the end, I'm pretty happy with how this month turned out, even though it is slightly disappointing because I am such a saver and wanted to hit this goal for the first time in the month of May. But yeah, we got close. We're off by $220.62. All right, the final category, I added this one. This is new. Fine/fees. This is a little embarrassing, but I paid $3.05 in credit card interest. This was for a payment that I had taken off of auto pay because I didn't want to pay more than what we owed. And then I forgot to go and pay it manually. So that was on me, my bad. And they charged us $3.05. I'm going to call this credit card company and ask if they will waive it for us this one time because I always pay on time, in full, all the things. And this was just a little error on my part for taking it off autopay. I should not have done that. But yeah, I've never asked for a refund for a fee before with this credit card company. So hopefully they'll give it to me and I definitely will not make this mistake again. All right. So now moving on to the May to-dos. My first goal was to post 5 items for sale online. And I did do that. I posted 11 books on Facebook Marketplace and there were books that I knew that I could sell. They're pretty popular and they were in good condition. That's why I didn't sell them to the local bookshops because I was pretty confident I could sell them by myself on Facebook Marketplace. But we'll see. I posted them today just so that I could say that I'd completed this task for this video because I had forgotten to do it until today. I also posted some tablecloths that were left over from my wedding and a veil. It was actually brand new that I didn't end up using for my wedding. And yes, my wedding was in 2021. So I just have been sitting on these items and not really getting around to selling them, but I posted all that on Facebook finally, and technically way more than 5 items, but pretty proud of that accomplishment. Next, text family friends regarding car and reimbursements. This did get done, although as I said before, I was feeling very anxious and put it off until literally the last minute and only did it because I knew I was going to have to admit on the internet that I didn't do it. But yeah, I feel like having this channel has definitely kept me accountable. Like, I don't know how much of our goal we would have accomplished if it hadn't been for this channel because of the accountability. Like, even if no one watches these videos, I know I'm gonna have to answer to the internet, and that does motivate me weirdly. So thank you for being here and for watching and for keeping me accountable because it is inspiring me to pursue my goals and stay accountable. So yeah, I overcame my anxiety for you guys. I am pretty proud of myself for that. It just is a lot to ask people to pay you back. Number 3 on my list, plant pothos clippings. And I also did this. It was very interesting. I ended up flipping in between each of the sections and putting them in water, and then left them there for like 2 weeks. I kept refilling the water and they actually sprouted roots. It was so crazy. I think what I'm going to do next, since they're still in water and I'm a little nervous about planting them in dirt, I'm just going to keep adding dirt to the water until they're basically planted in the cups, and hopefully they should stay alive for that. I think while they are started out in water, they need a lot of moisture, and if you just transfer them straight to the dirt, they may or may not do well. I also planted some basil the same way. I took a big basil plant and cut it into sections and then replanted, and they grew roots in the water. It was so cool. But yeah, that took a couple weeks for them to grow roots, and I think they're almost ready to transport to soil. So I'll start that process probably in June. But yeah, gardening is so cool. It's so cool to see plants growing, and nature is just so interesting. The last thing on my list, this was left over from the month of April, switch auto insurance provider. And I did do that, as you saw earlier. So probably redundant. But yeah, that is it. Here is some footage of me filling out the trackers that I had put together for the month of May. We didn't end up coloring in any of it until just now. We had a lot of bills happening and I wasn't really sure if we were going to be able to save anything. So this is me coloring in the whole tracker, as well as the 30K tracker. We also have that, and we'll be filling it in right below the May line because we didn't quite reach $4,000 saved in the month of May for our emergency fund. If you've watched till the end of this video, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you sticking with me and listening to all the rants and babblings and stories, and hopefully I edited it down because this raw footage is about an hour and 20 minutes at this point. I do not think anybody is going to sit and watch an hour and 20-minute long video about budgeting, so I am so glad you stuck around to watch this, and thank you so much for being here and supporting my channel. And yeah, I hope your month of May went really well. Feel free to drop a comment. I'd love to get to know you better. I hope you have an amazing month of June, and I'll talk to you in the next video.